Hello again, welcome to another Itsy Bitsy Book Bits chapter reading. Today I'll be reading Keep Moving, Keep Doing, Keep Living, On With the Butter, Spread More Living Onto Everyday Life by Heidi Herman. Introduction. Not what we have, but what we enjoy constitutes our abundance. Epicurus, the Greek philosopher. On with the butter is an old Icelandic expression that means carry on, keep doing what you're doing, forge ahead, or keep moving. The Icelandic pronunciation, which I apologise if wrong, is Afram med smjörit. That sentiment was one of the countless things I learned from my vivacious Icelandic mother. Just keep moving was her favourite mantra. She taught me by example to embrace life and live in the moment. I have witnessed firsthand how people respond to that ideal and how they become motivated to do more themselves. Now that I know it's something that many people strive to achieve, I'm even more grateful that this spirit is ingrained in me. We've all heard the popular expression, YOLO, you only live once. We're reminded to take advantage of the days we're given, but how exactly do we do that? Some people focus on finding happiness, and while that's not a bad idea, the definition of happiness is different for everyone. So we have to figure out what makes us happy. To do that, we need to experience life in all its glory, the exciting and the mundane, the good and the bad, the happy and the sad. The search might lead to peace and contentment, purposefulness, action and excitement, high knowledge or caretaking. We all seek these things to one degree or another, but there's often one desire that becomes the primary focus. Before retirement, that focus is often our job or career. But after we retire, we discover that life changes and our primary focus seems to disappear. And that's when the exploration begins again. That's when we find new things that challenge us or just make us smile. As we get older, it's easy to become consumed with our health and taking care of ourselves. We may change our diet, take prescriptions to treat medical conditions, and focus more on physical fitness. But while we're working so hard to increase our lifespan, what are we doing to appreciate and make most of that time? Those are the questions On With the Butter invites us to entertain. There are many books that offer advice on how to live healthier, how to be happier, how to age with grace, and become physically fit. But while they're all worthwhile pursuits, I'd always felt like one was missing. I now know that it's the philosophy that my mum instilled in me, the curiosity and desire to experience life and the creativity to find many ways to do it. I thought of mum as a life adventurer. She taught me to embrace life with exuberance. While into her 90s, she inspired those around her simply by the way she lived. She was constantly active, writing books, travelling, visiting friends and family, and living each day to the fullest. And she was just one of the great role models I was blessed to have. My father, who had his own version of living every day to the fullest, was another. He dropped out of high school, lied about his age to join the US Navy, and was stationed in Iceland before his 19th birthday. Although he never had any higher learning or formal education, he became an ordained minister, general contractor, and self-taught architect. To me, he was a brilliant thinker and problem solver. So after Dad was diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer, I was staggered. I struggled to accept that the larger-than-life dynamo had been knocked down to life size. I was 46 at the time, and as I watched one of my heroes undergo surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy in an aggressive battle to survive, my commitment to making the most of my own life became stronger. For 6 months, he fought to stay alive, and shortly after he turned 89, we got the incredible news that his cancer was in full remission. The energy that Dad had put into healing was now channeled into living, and it gave me a different perspective. I had always thought life is too short to be taken for granted, but I realised that life is also far too long to be squandered on unhappiness or boredom. Although my life was full and I was content, I wanted to experience more. I wanted to revisit some of the things I once enjoyed and try things that I'd never thought I'd try. Thanks to my role models, I'd always been a doer. But my new view of life made me realise that I'd also let a lot of fun opportunities pass me by. And I decided to stop that. I decided to take the on with the butter approach to my everyday life. After I retired, instead of buying a rocking chair, I learnt to fly. My sincere hope is that this book, which is packed with ideas for embracing life and zest and exuberance, will arm you with what you need to do just that. You don't have to live every day to the fullest, but I'm challenging you to live fully every day, whatever that means to you. On with the butter. Chapter 1. Just say yes. Opportunities are endless. The true enjoyments must be spontaneous and compulsive and look to no remote end. C.S. Lewis, author of the Chronicles of Narnia. Whether we're 9 years old or 90, taking advantage of spur-of-the-moment invitations and opportunities adds a slice of unexpected fun and adventure to everyday life. Being spontaneous, even occasionally, also prevents us from getting into ruts and opens the door to more connection with our family and friends. And it turns out playing life by the ear can be beneficial for our health and happiness. Fun surprises turn on connector emotions like love and joy that tell our brains to release happy hormones. That makes anxiety and stress go down, which in turn helps to lower our risk for heart disease and high blood pressure. In other words, welcoming unplanned adventures is good therapy for us. I can almost hear my fellow planners groaning, but don't worry, I'm not suggesting that you trash your appointment book or turn your routine upside down. I'm just challenging you to enjoy unexpected opportunities when they present themselves. It's not unusual for people to become less spontaneous and follow a more rigid schedule as we get older, but becoming regimented is not a requirement of ageing, and I don't recommend it. I'm convinced that my mum's just say yes philosophy contributed to her youthful vitality. And that way of living didn't stop once she entered her 80s or even her 90s. That's how Mum once ended up on a dance floor, hopping and flapping her wings, along with 20 other people while I looked on grinning. We were at Yuma, Arizona Civic Centre for the Scandinavian Festival, hosted by the Sons of Norway Solar Lodge, when I heard the unmistakable tune of the chicken dance. I turned to Mum. "Oh, we have to watch," I said. "I love this." An announcement came over the PA system that anyone who wanted to learn the chicken dance should gather on the dance floor. "Did they say chicken dance?" she said, sounding almost horrified. "What's that?" Clearly she was imagining the worst. "Seriously," I said, grabbing her hand, "then you have to learn. It'll be a hoot." That settled it. In Mum's mind there was no higher praise for something enjoyable than calling it a hoot. She motioned for me to go with her, but I shook my head, holding up my phone. "I have to stay here and take pictures for your Instagram." And when she hesitated, I nodded and smiled encouragingly. A true Viking, Mum wasn't about to back down from a new adventure, so she gamely trotted onto the polished wood floor and took a place right in front of the instructor. And she held her own too, at least until the music sped up and she was giggling so much that she gave on the steps and just flapped her arms. She had such a good time that I decided to say yes to a traditional Norwegian group dance that reminded me of the square dancing I'd learned in elementary school. Since everyone else was learning at the same time, my missteps would blend in with everyone else's. It looked like so much fun that I was willing to jump in beside her. Even though just say yes was part of Mum's philosophy of life, she was still self-conscious at times. It's easier to take the risk of looking silly when you have someone familiar doing it with you. And in this case, being her sidekick was as good for me as it was for her. Planned spontaneity is not an oxymoron. If there's one thing I learned, it's that nobody is here forever. You have to live for the moment, each and every day, the here and the now. Simone L. Calise, American author. It may sound like a contradiction, but we can plan to be more spontaneous by adding time cushions to our schedules and designating days or time windows for spur-of-the-moment activities and adventures. For example, if it will take 10 minutes to pick up your library books, plan 30 minutes or even an hour just in case something is happening when you get there. Like a ukulele circle that entertains patrons on Tuesday nights. Who knew? We've all stumbled upon interesting and entertaining scenes that look like fun, if only we have the time. How often do we encounter a novel opportunity or see an ad for something unusual but pass it up because we don't have time for it? When was the last time you ran into a friend and didn't say you had too many things to do and places to be to grab a cup of coffee? Instead of wishing we had more time for spontaneous fun, why not look for opportunities to make that happen? In addition to adding time cushions to our schedules and designating time for playing it by ear, we can make room for spontaneity in our bigger plans, including celebrations and travelling. So when I was invited to present my children's programme Trolls and Legends of Iceland at Scanfest, a large Scandinavian festival held every year on the East Coast, I wondered if it might be an opportunity to schedule in some time for some unplanned adventures. Mum and I loved events like these and usually participated by giving presentations and setting up a vendor booth to talk to festival goers about Icelandic culture and promote our books. And while I was excited about the opportunity to share folklore from the children's stage, a 4-day round-trip drive seemed excessive for a one-day event. But since we needed to transport boxes filled with our books, a tent for our outdoor vendor booth, our custom-made 6-foot head-in-the-hole Viking photo board and my Viking-style costume, driving was truly our only option. So what to do? Well, we decided to turn the drive there into a 10-day adventure. Instead of taking the 875-mile direct route, we charted a route from Illinois to New Jersey by way of Canada. It was a perfect opportunity for some scenic and leisurely exploration. And we were excited to visit a few places we hadn't been before. Our route stretched across 13 states and 2 Canadian provinces, over 2,000 miles, including a stay in Cape Cod where we rented a condo and took day trips throughout the northeast before heading to the festival. While driving through Vermont on the way to Cape Cod one afternoon, we were enjoying the warm August temperatures, the green rolling hills and the local flavours when we encountered an unexpected flavour. Along a 2-lane country road, we spotted a sign that read, "Free wine tasting," with an arrow pointing left. I looked over at Mum. "What do you think?" She pointed to the left. "Just say yes, Heidi." We were both laughing as I drove the quarter mile to the huge red barn that housed the Boyden Valley Winery. On both sides of the barn, orderly rows of grapevines reached over the hill and extended to the edge of the deciduous forest that met the pale blue sky. This spur-of-the-moment pit stop was already worth it simply for the view. As we walked inside, we were greeted with upbeat polka music and smiles from the sommelier, Jamie, as she welcomed us to the tasting room, which had a bar that ran the length of one wall and a high ceiling with exposed wood beams. Sunlight streamed through the high windows and reflected off the wine bottles. I displayed the shining wine bottles displayed on the shelves lining the walls. Mum and I exchanged a smile. Everything about this place was fun. We learned that it was Jamie's first season at the winery, but she was highly knowledgeable about the wines and directed us through tasting like a pro. Tapping our feet to the lively polka music as we sampled a few varieties of wine, we agreed that we liked the glog the most. Glog is a traditional Scandinavian spiced wine typically made for the winter holidays. And Mum said this version reminded her of the glog her grandfather used to serve. I could tell from the smile on her face that it was a happy memory for her. We were still smiling and tapping our feet when the door opened and 2 couples walked in and joined us at the bar. They were touring the northeastern United States and had seen the same winery sign that we had. Within minutes we were chatting like old friends, and after one of the men noticed that Mum was bobbing her head to the music, he held out his hand and invited her for a dance. True to form, she said yes without hesitation. They put the spacious barn floor to good use and finished the polka with a flourish of laughter, a beautiful display of living in the moment. A straight route may be the shortest distance between 2 points, but a road that twists and curves offers surprises at every turn. The challenge: practice saying yes. You must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, and in your eternity in each moment. Henry David Thoreau, American philosopher. When we talk about being spontaneous or living in the moment, it can even sound frivolous, but practicing being spontaneous has practical purposes too. It helps us to be more flexible and resilient when things don't quite go as planned, 2 qualities we can't do well without. So the challenge checklist. Pad your schedule with extra time for unexpected activities. Designate at least 1 day a month to playing life by the ear. When you get invited to something you're not sure you'll enjoy, say yes anyway. Recruit a sidekick, or several. Practice saying yes to invitations. Notice billboards and take time to check events, locations that seem interesting. Share my Just Say Yes moments on your Facebook page or other social media. Be a follower on someone else's adventure and say yes when you're invited. Go to a school event to support children's programmes for your grandchildren or someone else's. Watch for signs for wine and food tastings, open houses, poetry readings, etc. Jot events on your calendar as you hear about them. If someone says, we should do that, just don't say, sure we would. Make a solid plan and include time for spontaneity in celebrations and travel plans. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and if you want to know more, I'd advise picking up the book as well. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the reading.